In this example, we're going to re-implement the same account class that we showed you in the first example, but this time, rather than using a set method and a get method to manipulate the instance variable name in class account, we're going to use a C# syntax known as a property, which is a more elegant solution for performing the exact same task. So first, I just want to take a brief look at main here to show you the differences in how we interact with an account object in this example. We still create an account object the same way, but notice here at line 13, myaccount.name has no parentheses after it. This is a property, not a method. A property encapsulates within it accessors that allow you to get a corresponding instance variable's value or set a corresponding instance variable's value. The context determines whether the get or set accessor is used. So in this case, because we're in a string interpolation expression, it means that we're trying to get the value of this expression, and therefore the name property's get accessor will give me back the current name in the myaccount object. Whereas down here at line 18, we are assigning a value to the property called name. And properties to programmers look like data rather than methods. So that's why we're assigning to the property rather than placing a set of parentheses after it and putting a parameter or argument into those parentheses. So here, because of the context on the left side of an assignment, the language knows that we're giving a value or assigning a value to the property, which in turn invokes the set accessor of that property to modify the object myaccount and specifically to store a value into the instance variable name. And of course, back down here, we're going to get that value once again. So if I run the program briefly and I type Bob Blue, you can see that the program executes exactly the same way as the first version of the account test class. So let's go ahead and take a look at class account, and after I show you the syntax for a property, I'll run this with the debugger briefly just to show you the get and set accessors executing. So once again, we have a class called account with a private string instance variable called name, but instead of a set and a get method, this time we have a single name property. Now a property is declared kind of similarly to a piece of data. In this case, we have a private piece of data of type string called name, and we have a public property of type string called name. And the reason the property is public is because it's part of the public interface of the class definition. Via this property's get and set accessors, we will be manipulating the name instance variable the same way we did with the get and set methods in the first version of class account. Now, a property's body is delimited by a set of braces, and within that set of braces, you have a get accessor and a set accessor. The get accessor, as its name implies, gets a value from the property, and the set accessor, as its name implies, sets a value via the property. Now, the get accessor is followed by a set of curly braces and must contain a return statement that passes a value back to the code that accessed or invoked that property. So we're returning the name here once again. And the set accessor has an implicit parameter called value, and you can actually rename that by putting a set of parentheses here and putting a name inside those parentheses, but we're using the default name value that's provided by C# in this case. So that value is going to be stored into the instance variable called name. And to prove to you that these work similarly to the get name and set name methods that we showed you in the first example, let's go ahead and run this program in the debugger. So I'm going to go back to the account test class, and in this case I'll set a breakpoint here at line 13 so I can step into the name property. So let me go ahead and run in the debugger here, and you can see it builds the project, and it now shows me that line 13 is about to execute. Now, by default, the Visual Studio Debugger automatically steps over properties. So if you want to see how a get or a set accessor works, you need to right-click on the property name and then select Step into Specific, and then select the actual property accessor that you want to step into. Now notice it's only showing the get accessor in this list. It's not showing the set accessor, and that's because based on the context, the get accessor is what will be used here. So if I select get, now you can see we're in the name property of the account class in the account.cs file, and we're about to go return the current value of name, which is null. And I can see that up here as well for the instance variable. So if I step back out of the get accessor here and then step over the rest of that statement and look at my output window, we can see again that there's no name yet. Next, we're going to go ahead and input that name, so let's do that. And for this one, we'll type Jane Green and press enter. Now it's waiting for us to execute line 18. We can see that the name is Jane Green, which we just typed in. We can also see that the name properties value is null, and the property value is the instance variable value. They are one and the same as far as their value is concerned. This is just a nicer little syntax of C# that allows us to manipulate instance variables with a data-like syntax instead of a method call syntax. So the value of the name will be placed into the name property, which is going to invoke the name set accessor. So if I right-click the property and select Step into Specific, notice it says account.name.set because of the context on the left side of an assignment. And now we're in the set accessor. Value, the implicit parameter, has already been assigned Jane Green, which is what we assigned to the property. Name is still null right now, but if I step over that assignment, now name is the value Jane Green, as is the parameter called value. And when we return back to the caller, we can now see that name's property value is Jane Green. And therefore, we've now stored the value into the account object. And finally, when we go down here to access that name property and display it, we're going to see Jane Green get displayed. As you can see in the tooltip here, that's the value of the property. So if I step over that statement and take a look at my output window, indeed, the property returns the appropriate value.